Hi, welcome back to Port City Airsoft. Today we're going to be talking about gas blowback pistol maintenance. This is something you'll want to do periodically, just if your pistol is especially dirty or if it's been a few months or something since the last time you've cleaned it. You want to do this not super often, but often enough to make sure that your pistol is reliable and that it works for you when you need it to. So let's get into it.
All right, we are talking about maintaining our gas blowback pistol. Here we have our SSP-1 as well as our CO2 magazine. We also have all of the tools that we're going to need in order to do this maintenance. That's going to be a multi-tool, a gas valve key, a flathead screwdriver, Airsoft Innovation silicone oil, rubbing alcohol, cotton pads, cotton swabs, and a cleaning rod. Once we've got all of that, the first thing we're going to need to do is break down the pistol. This looks relatively similar with the different pistol platforms, with some difference between them. If you're having difficulty with this step, there's usually a video online that details the breaking down of your pistol a little bit more, but since we only have the SSP-1 here, we didn't feel like it was necessary to go into much detail on that. Once you've gotten your pistol broken down, the first thing you're going to want to do is wipe down the upper slide and the lower receiver, as well as the outer barrel assembly and hop-up assembly with a dry cotton pad, just to knock loose any of the excess dirt and remove any of the old oil that might still be in there, as well as any moisture. Once you've done that, you're going to apply a thin layer of silicone oil to a cotton pad, a clean one preferably, and apply a thin layer of that oil to the slide and the lower receiver as well as the outer assembly, and you can as well to the hop-up assembly. The hop-up assembly, you want to take care not to get any of the silicone oil inside the inner barrel. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but just a good thing to keep in mind, just making sure that you're careful around that area. Then you want to take the tip of your cleaning rod and just dip it into some of the rubbing alcohol. You don't want to use too much rubbing alcohol, just enough to get some cleaning agent on there and inside the inner barrel. The reason we use rubbing alcohol is because it evaporates very quickly and it still cleans very well. So you're not going to have any residue or any moisture left over in the barrel once you're done cleaning, which can throw off the trajectory of your BBs, but then can also potentially rust your inner barrel and cause damage over time. Now, before you use the cleaning rod on the inner barrel, you're going to want to make sure that you turn your hop up all the way off. Take a look down the inner barrel from the hop up side and you can see the hop up nub. If it's down, you'll be able to see it protruding into the barrel. You want to make sure that's all the way off, just to eliminate any risk of you damaging the hop up. You still want to be very careful during this process. Even with the hop up off, if you're just kind of rough, you can still damage the more delicate pieces of the hop up. So just kind of be gentle, take your time, and yeah, you got this. Once the inner barrel has been cleaned, the next thing you're going to want to do is add some of the silicone oil to the parts of the slide and the lower receiver where you can see the contact. The slide runs on a track that is on the lower receiver of the pistol, and so you'll be able to see on there, if you've used it a little bit, where it's kind of rubbing against the lower receiver. Just kind of dab a few drops of the silicone oil in there, work it in a little bit. When you put the slide back on, you'll kind of rack it a few times just to get that stuff worked in. Anywhere on there, even on the outer barrel assembly, you'll see some spots where it might be rubbing against that. Go ahead and coat that outer barrel in a little bit more. Those areas right there, especially, put a little drop of the silicone oil on there. And then when you put everything back together, just kind of rack it a few times to get it nice and worked in. But that is the next step, is once you've done that, getting everything put back together, and you are good to go. You have done the maintenance on your pistol. All right, now that we have maintained our pistol, we're going to check out our magazine. This isn't necessarily recommended every time you maintain your pistol. Just if you notice your mags are getting particularly dirty, or if it's been a while since they've been cleaned, or if you're noticing any performance issues, this can also be something that might help remedy that. But it's something that the more you do this, the more it wears on the seals, and they can slowly degrade over time. The first thing you're going to want to do is remove the butt plate from your magazine. Different magazines are going to be different, and this is a CO2 magazine, so if you have a green gas magazine, it's going to be a little bit different than this. The next portion is mostly if you're having problems with your magazines or if they are particularly dirty. This is something you might want to do, but it's something, again, that's not something you want to do very often because it'll wear down on the seals over time. This is going to look a little different for green gas and CO2 mags, but this first part is relatively the same. You're going to want to locate the gas valve near the top of the magazine first. This is the one that releases the gas that actually fires the BB. Then you want to take your valve key and find the size on there that fits the corresponding valve and get a nice grip on it and twist it to unscrew it. You'll be able to tell which way it's unscrewing. It'll be tighter one direction than the other. And just go ahead and unscrew that thing until it comes all the way out. Once you have removed the valve, you're going to want to grab one of your Q-tips and get a little bit of the silicone oil on there and just wipe it around the inside of that valve, the hole that that valve came out of. Get the threadings. You don't have to get too far down in there, but just any dirt that you see, just wipe that out. We're using silicone oil because we want to make sure that everything in here is nice and lubricated, and because a lot of this lubrication is going to be left behind, we want something that's going to interact positively with whatever propellant we're using, and silicone oil reacts very positively with CO2 and with green gas. Once you have the valve slot in the magazine cleaned out very well, then you're going to want to do the same to the valve itself. You can do this with the Q-tip or with the cotton pad, but you just want to make sure that you're using that silicone oil again. Once you've thoroughly cleaned out the valve hole and the valve itself, then you're going to want to take that silicone oil again and just add a dab of it around the threads of the valve and around the seal, the black seal that you see there, just to lubricate everything up a little bit before it goes back into the magazine. Once you've done that, you're just going to want to drop that valve back into the valve hole on the magazine and use that same size on the valve key to tighten that back down. You don't want to go super tight, just kind of tighten it to where you feel that resistance and then go a quarter turn past that. You really don't need much more. You want it to be tight, but then you don't want it to strip that seal at the same time. If you go too tight, the threading on the nozzle and in that little slot there can shred the seal that's on the valve itself. So you just want to be very careful when you're doing that, not to damage that seal. For green gas magazines, there is a valve on the bottom of the magazine where the cap for the CO2 is. It unscrews very similarly to the other valve that we showed here. It's a bit smaller, so there's another size on the valve key for it, and it unscrews the same. You just twist it until it comes loose, and we recommend the same thing. Wipe it down with the silicone oil, clean it out with a Q-tip as best you can, reapply silicone oil to the valve itself, and then screw it back in, and then just that quarter turn tight once you've got it set in place. For green gas magazines, what we have learned is that leaving a little bit of green gas in them keeps a nice pressure on the seals, which helps them last a little bit longer. For CO2, because you're using those canisters, it's a little bit difficult to do that, so we just recommend leaving them empty. It's better than leaving them overcharged. So we recommend leaving CO2 mags empty, but leave a little bit of a green gas charge in your green gas magazines. And once you've done that, just reassemble everything and you are good to go.
All right, so I've got my clean pistol here and I'm ready to go play Airsoft. Hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If you like this, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, as well as ring that notification bell so you can be notified of more videos like this, as well as our weekly podcast. If you want to check out our social media, as well as pick up some really cool merch, make sure to check the description below. Those will be linked there. But most importantly, go play Airsoft.